I'm Dan Archer. I'm a sculptor. I'm also senior lecturer in sculpture part-time at Loughborough University School of Art Design. I've been working as a sculptor for more than 30 years and started working materials out in the landscape. And then after going to art school, I went to live in Japan, and I lived in Japan for 4 years. While in Japan, I met a Japanese sculptor called Hideo Furuta, who took me to quarries on islands on the inland sea, and I started carving granite there. I'd never worked in stone before, and that was my main material for many, many years, although since coming back to England and working here a lot, I've also worked in bronze, cast iron, ceramics, sound, light, and a lot of other media. A lot of my work is large-scale projects for public sites, such as the one you can see here behind me at Caspian Wharf, which is in steel, although I still work in stone a lot. My biggest stone piece is one called Full Fathom 5, that's an installation of 108 granite pillars with the profile of a wave running across a mound beside the Bristol Channel in Portishead. This is one of my most recent commissions. This is a steel piece. It's on a site called Caspian Wharf, which is on the Limehouse Cut Canal in Limehouse. The shapes of these sculptures come from some kind of waving wall shapes that I was making both in stone and in ceramics and in unfired brick. And the reason for that is this was at a wharf, and ships would unload down on the Thames, and sailing barges called Thames wherries would sail up the Limehouse Cut and unload on the site into warehouses here on site. So we decided to make the work relate to these sailing barges, so that the sculptures are in the shapes of sails. The other feature of them is that they're kind of semi-transparent. And the reason for this is that the building behind us has a view through the sculptures to the canal, and we wanted the sculptures to be large but also to be kind of semi-transparent so you can see through them. As well as that, this overlaying of grids gives an interesting effect of light and pattern in the sculpture called a moire effect, which is a term that comes from the silk industry, where they'd lay warp and weft of silk against each other and you get a kind of iridescence in the silk. So as you walk around the sculptures, you get a kind of rippling of light and pattern through them. This is a maquette, which means a sculptural model. And this is for my ideas and the proposal for the site in Bracknell. My sculptures tend to lead from one to another in ideas and physical form, and obviously this one has developed out of some of the things happening in this sculpture here at Caspian Wharf. The relationship that these ideas developed to the site were through forms such as leaves, and particularly those kind of spirals of leaves you get in the wind, and that's the idea there is to bring the kind of the forest that surrounds Bracknell into the town and make very strong references to that forest. So these are that spiral of leaves in the wind. The other reference is to the desire to regenerate Bracknell, and I was thinking of ideas of the flames and fire of regeneration, and the idea of the griffin rising from the flames. It's fabricated in a similar way to the Caspian Wharf sculptures. The leaf forms are perforated, and this is to give it that moire effect. So as you walk around the sculpture or drive around the sculpture, because it's on a traffic island, you'll get a rippling of light and pattern through the sculpture, which will give it considerable visual interest. Part of this inspiration came actually from chestnut leaves. I have a small house and a studio on the North Atlantic coast of Spain in the mountains of Asturias, and my house is surrounded by chestnut trees. And in the autumn, the leaves dry and fall off the trees and curl like these, and when they blow in the wind, they roll down the road outside the house. It's very remote there, and it makes a sound just like people walking down the road. So I always jump when I hear this. But sort of sitting out there amongst the leaves doing this gave me some of the ideas for this sculpture. When I'm working on stone pieces, the work's done in quarries to start with, and then in my own studio. With steelworks, the process is very different. And I use places such as this, which is an engineering factory, but which specialises completely in making steel sculpture, Benson Sedgwick's in Dagenham. Caspian Sails was made here under my supervision. It started as huge plates of steel. I think they're about 5 meters long by 3 meters wide, and the shapes of the sails were cut out of that steel by water jet. These plates are then taken into the workshop, and a lot of work is done in the workshop by welders welding them together. First, actually, they put them through gigantic rolling machines that bring the curves that you see in the sculpture. These exert huge pressure on the plates and bend them very carefully to the shapes that I wanted. And then they're welded together, put onto lorries here and taken to a galvanizing works where the entire sculptures are dropped into hot zinc in pools as big as swimming pools and then brought back here for final finishing and polishing work. Then the sculptures are put onto lorries again and delivered to Caspian Wharf with cranes and a big team of men. They were installed on the 3 plinths over the period of a couple of days. That really is the story of the sculpture. It sounds simple, but it's actually much more complicated than that in real life. But you get fantastic results out of this kind of facility. I'm intrigued about the idea of doing a sculpture for Bracknell. I'd love to do it. My teenage years were spent in Maidenhead, where I went to high school, and after that I used to come back every summer to work as a relief lockkeeper on the Thames. So I know Bracknell very well, and Southill Park particularly well, because I used to come to all the jazz festivals here when they were running. I can remember coming back from living in Japan with my son in a pram and him sleeping through an entire Don Cherry concert at the Southill Park Jazz Festival. It was great fun.